Hello everybody, it's January 16th, 2026. Let's get started.
Under Joe Biden. Many are now calling for Trump to circumvent these radical judges and consider suspending the writ of habeas corpus solely for these illegal aliens in accordance with the terms of Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution, which explicitly allows for such a measure when there is a rebellion or invasion. There's strong precedent for this action, being that it was exercised by three of our greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, and Democrats' favorite president of all time, FDR. All three of which are not only celebrated by historians, but are immortalized on our national currency with their faces on there. Furthermore, all three used it against American citizens, where in this instance we would only be using it against illegal aliens. I think almost every reasonable American would agree that 15 million illegal aliens coming across our border under Joe Biden counts as an invasion, especially since many, as you highlighted, are now robbing, assaulting, raping, and killing American citizens. Historic assaults on our republic require reciprocal action from our government. Can you please let us know if and when the Trump administration is planning to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to circumvent these radical judges who are infringing on his Article 2 powers and to start shipping out illegals en masse?
I have not heard such discussions take place, but I can assure you that the President and the entire administration are certainly open to all legal and constitutional remedies to ensure we can continue with the promise of deporting illegal criminals from our nation's borders. And I also agree with the premise of your question, which doesn't happen in this room often, but I do agree with yours. It is absurd that the previous administration was allowed to allow 15 million, that we know about, illegal aliens into this country with very little pushback from our judicial branch. But this president is trying to simply enforce our nation's immigration laws and is facing roadblock after roadblock.
And I will say it loud and proud because the DH secretary had a few choice words for me, but this looks like modern day slave patrols. And they have been sanctioned by this Supreme Court. Whoever thought we would live in a country that progress looks like having a Supreme Court that says, yes, it is okay to look at somebody or to listen to their accent and give permission to grab them.
Oh yes, in case you're wondering, she's talking about imprisoning her opposition. Hold on, since when did people leaving office get to appoint their successors?
Good to see you in the new year. You know, no one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. It's just not what my plan was. But what I've always decided is that I would step up when there was a need. And so I fully anticipated that our Congresswoman would serve out at least one more term, if not more than one term, in Congress. But when she called me and said, I think it's time for me to retire, and you're the one that I believe should take my seat, I really was kind of caught off guard. I didn't.
Yeah, that's the one I remember. She sounds hot. Definitely doesn't look it.
They want to talk about the Ukrainians got all of these Nazis.
It's amazing to me that just in a few years' time, it's now considered misinformation to talk about the Nazis in Ukraine.
You guys remember Brad Pitt from Inglourious Bastards? Well, let me tell you something about Nazis. You can find Nazis all over the place. And it's our job to hunt Nazis.
Well, let me tell you something. You can find Nazis anywhere. You can find them right here in the United States. In fact, a bunch of the people that they're calling victims and prisoners of war, also known as convicted felons from January 6th. So here's the point. We have people in this chamber that are actually causing just as much a threat, if not more of a threat, to our own country. We should be talking about holding our very own accountable for the misinformation and disinformation that they are spreading, whether it's coming out of China, whether it's coming out of Russia, or whoever is peddling it. It is a problem. And I'm tired of it because I didn't come to this chamber to play games. I came to this chamber to answer to the people, the American people.
That's right, people. She's here to project who she really is. She's not here to play games. She ain't playing, y'all.
This is about selling this country off for future political power. That's what it was. The law clearly says if you arrive at our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, shall. And that's what President Trump's doing. Catch and release is over. That's what the law says, and that's what we've done. What I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not. And as far as releasing so many people, you know why the Biden administration released millions of people in the United States? No one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ice bed? Why not put them in an empty ice bed at $127 a night rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night? They did it on purpose. Because when you put them in an ice detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. Court records show 9 out of 10 people claim asylum, get order removal, they're gone. But if you release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, their hearings could be 5, 7, 9 years if you pull out all appeals. And what are they hoping for then? That another Democrat administration is in power. They can award an amnesty to millions.
I serve on our committees in the Congress that deal with the military and our justice system. The people in the United States of America are very grateful for the state of exception, and we're grateful that CCOT exists so that these criminals are not harming the people of El Salvador or harming the people of the United States. A lot of the people behind me would have found a way to make their way to the United States and harm Americans. And we are grateful to President Bukele and his administration for establishing security and the state of exception, and for all the good work that the people do here to keep everyone else safe. El Salvador is a country on the rise because people are safe and they are hopeful and they will be prosperous and they will grow great families and great churches and great businesses. And all of that is possible because the people here are not committing the murders and committing the rapes and the robberies and all the things that stop a strong country from standing up and fulfilling its great destiny. In past years, I think the United States Congress has been too willing to lump El Salvador in with Honduras and Guatemala on our policies. And we formed the El Salvador Caucus because El Salvador deserves its own respect. It deserves its own relationship directly with the United States that isn't colored by what else is going on in Central America or with your neighbors. We think the good ideas in El Salvador actually have legs and can go to other places and help other people be safe and secure and hopeful and prosperous. There is a lot more discipline in this prison than we see in a lot of the prisons in the United States, and there are a lot more murderers here. The people here have been doing a lot of killing. And in the United States, you get a mix in prison of people who've done a variety of things, but this is a concentrated effort to solve what was a terrible problem for the people of El Salvador. And so this is the solution. The solution is to separate the killers from the people who want to grow in their life and do more things for their neighbors and for their country.
Yeah. The president recently said when it comes to facilitating his release, he's leaving that up to his lawyer. So just to be clear, have there been any negotiations between the U.S. and El Salvador over his release or facilitating his release?
I will tell you what the president of El Salvador told all of you in the Oval Office. El Salvador does not intend to smuggle a designated foreign terrorist back into the United States. He is an El Salvadorian national. That is his home country. That is where he belongs. And the administration intends to comply with what President Bukele said of El Salvador. He does not intend to send that individual back.
So that's a no. There's been no talks.
What I have told you is that the president of El Salvador has made this quite clear.
Okay. Why does the liberal news keep asking this question? Even though it's been brutally answered by El Salvador's president, right to your face. Well, they're hoping that the uneducated left will just keep going with it. Oh yeah, that's right. I finally remember that. You don't remember a damn thing.
The question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world. No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it. They're sick. These are sick people.
Thank you, Caroline. If border crossings are at a record low, why should it still be considered an emergency?
It's because of what has happened on the last administration. We got to ensure that not 1 ounce of fentanyl comes across the border to kill Americans. The president has declared the cartels in Mexico a terrorist organization along with MS-13 TDA. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. It's an emergency till we shut it down.
Let me just have Obama answer this question for you, okay? And you should know this. You should be able to look this up. Remember, this guy that you worshipped? You should have wrote some of this stuff down. You should have kept good notes, at least.
Border Patrol officials say that between October 2022 to September 30th of this year, 151 migrants with positive terrorism watch list matches were arrested after crossing into the U.S. illegally along the southern border. So here's a breakdown of those numbers. The figure shows that in fiscal year 2023, CBP agents arrested a total of 154 non-citizens on the government's terrorist screening watch list. 151 of those individuals were arrested along the southern border. The number is up from 98 in the last fiscal year, and they represent a small fraction of all migrants processed at ports of entry.
The surge of unaccompanied children and adults with children are arriving at one sector of the border, and that's the Rio Grande Valley. While we intend to do the right thing by these children, their parents need to know that this is an incredibly dangerous situation, and it is unlikely that their children will be able to stay.
Yo siempre he observado que hay familias completas que van hacia Estados Unidos, jóvenes menores de edad no acompañados, y también algunos niños que van con alguien que los acompaña, que no son sus familiares. Ahora se dice que son tratados, que son engañados en sus lugares de origen, donde se les promete que se entreguen a las autoridades americanas y que entonces Estados Unidos les va a dar una visa humanitaria y que les va a dar todas las facilidades. Están huyendo por la crisis humanitaria que hay también.
Gotaways 38 yesterday. Who are the gotaways? Where do they come from? We had over 2 million gotaways under Joe Biden's administration. Why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Under the Biden administration, you pay a cartel this amount of money to cross the border. Cartel's job ends at the border. Just turn yourself in a green uniform. Get released in 24 hours. Get a free airline ticket to the city of your choice. Get a free hotel room. Get 3 meals a day. Get free medical care. Get work authorization in 90 to 120 days, which is the real reason they came here. Why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Because they didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. We've arrested over 400 people on the terrorist watch list coming across the southern border in 4 years. How many of the 2 million came from countries sponsoring terror? You think it's zero? Then you're ignorant.